Welcome to Unhinged Addiction. I'm your host, Eric Zink. I go by the Mr. Impulsive on a lot of my social media, or by Eric B. Zink on YouTube. This episode here, episode 6, is Kratom Addictive, and just what Kratom addiction is like, because I just did a lot of work with Refine Recovery, and you'll see some of the videos posted up. You'll see a podcast coming out with them. One of the things that they've started admitting a lot of people to is Kratom addiction, just because it's legal. And they see it on the rise, and I've noticed this with Kratom is it kind of goes on the rise every couple years, addiction-wise, along with other stuff such as like whippets. This stuff that you can buy in stores, because I think if you buy it in a store, you think it's not that bad. Even though you can get tenaneptine, which is gas station heroin essentially, in stores, because it's legal, it's used as like a weight loss or it's used as a supplement. The FDA doesn't regulate any of this. And a lot of this stuff really is addictive or has addictive things in it. And it's extremely dangerous. So just because you're buying it in a store, whether you're buying it in a vitamin shop, whether you're buying it in a gas station, whether you're buying it in a smoke shop, like this stuff is scary that's out there. And I don't think people really realize it. Kratom is one of the hard ones because there is a plus side to Kratom. And so just to sit and completely bash it 1,000%, I don't think is right. It's probably one of the most controversial substances there is, because for pain management, it is great. If you don't know what Kratom is, South Indonesia, it's a leaf and it's grinded up into a powder. So you either have white Kratom, green Kratom, red Kratom. These are the popular ones, and now people have told me before about like gold and some of the others. When I started really trying Kratom, there's only the 3. And everyone told me that, hey, each one reacts a little bit differently. And I experimented with Kratom, not for pain management, but for depression management, essentially. I really struggled with SSRIs, Lexapro, Prozac. A lot of these things gave me like suicidal tendencies. Like I got really depressed off of them. A really big opposite effect. And so Kratom, I was like looking at it like, hey, maybe this is a solution for it. People told me that, Kratom really does help with depression. It helps with your mindset, and it also helps with energy and stuff. So I'm like, cool, like maybe this will work. Maybe something out there will work. And hey, it's all natural. By this time I've already started like really hearing some of the dangers of Kratom. I had a friend of mine who was addicted to opiates. And instead of going the MAP program route of like Suboxone, he went Kratom route, and he thought it was the greatest thing ever. He's like, dude, I found a way to get off of opiates. Kratom worked for him for about 30 days, and he lost control of it and relapsed back onto opiates, and his addiction didn't go back to normal. It actually went worse. And I think anytime you relapse, your addiction goes to 0 to 100 a lot quicker. You hit that tolerance point back, and then it also goes over and beyond then. So his went over and beyond. So I was like, I knew that there were some dangers to this, but I wanted to try it out. So I ended up experimenting with green Kratom second. I did white Kratom first, and then I was going to save red Kratom to last, because that was the one everyone was like, that really watch out for red Kratom. Now, in my non-professional addiction opinion, I think all of them don't really have the best effects when getting sober. Anything that alters your brain chemistry, alters your mindset, I think is something that needs to be respected, that you can be addicted to it. Now, when it comes to that pain management side, I get it. I get if you have permanent pain, nerve damage, whatever, and you can't afford, the right medication, this is a solution for it. But it's also a solution, unfortunately, for addicts. So it's 2 solutions. It's a good solution for pain management. If you can't afford your medication, this is a cheap alternative. It's something that does work. It is addictive, just like opiates are. So I think it has to really be respected, such as like opiates. But when it comes to how it is as an addict, this is a very bad solution, because it's that escape. And it's one of these escapes that kind of tempts you as an addict. And that's the scary thing, is a lot of times the people I talk to that are addicts are like, hey, well, what can I do to kind of like feel, good? And I know what you mean by feeling good. We're afraid to be sober. We don't think we can have fun sober. We want to live a altered life in a sense. We want to live in an altered brain state because we are so used to it. So we're trying to find like a safe alternative, and anything that alters our brain state isn't really a safe alternative, because all it's going to do is alter our brain state. We're going to love the feeling of it. We're going to crave more of the feeling of it, and we're probably going to relapse. I don't know many success stories at all. And there are some out there, so I'm not going to say it's a 100% failure ratio, but it's not a great ratio. It's not one I would gamble with. So Kratom, you buy this in the store. I'm thinking this is a solution for me. I talked to my psychiatrist even about it because SSRIs didn't work, and he knew that. So I was like, dude, I'm going to try Kratom. He's like, all right. Like, a lot of doctors really didn't know what Kratom was. I was like, I heard it's addictive. So, if you notice any changes in me, let me know. I went down and I bought white Kratom to begin with because I heard that was the best for mental health. I got capsules because I really wanted to do a controlled study on myself in a sense. I figured, okay, I'm going to take, and I'll just use capsules for example. It was 750 milligrams, I believe, per capsule. And serving size was 4 capsules. So I did 4 capsules in the morning and I did 4 capsules in the afternoon, and I mirrored it with my medication, my vitamins. So I was taking essentially 8 capsules a day because I wanted to keep it very consistent and not grow it. Because I know that happens as addicts. We will grow it. We will grow our addiction. We'll start using more and not even realize it. So I knew if I could number it out and I could keep it where I could visually see it, this is something that probably will work for me. So I started taking these. And yeah, white Kratom made me happy. Like, it took away some of that depression. And it didn't take away any pain or anything. It didn't make me more energetic. But the problem I ran into a lot of times is if my depression went away and like the sadness went away, I'd get like lethargic and I would just sit there and just not really want to do much. Like, I felt good. I feel great. My brain's good, but I don't have any motivation to do anything. Like, hey, life is great. I'll just sit here and watch the carpet and the dog play and whatever. Like, I just no desire. And I hate that feeling because it does eventually start to really rot with me. And I did it for 30 days. Never once did it really change. For the first 2 weeks, roughly, it was good. Like, I was still kind of active in there. But towards the end, I just really noticed myself getting lethargic. And I was like, man, this sucks. So I continued on through my experiment. I told myself I would do it for 30 days. And after 30 days, I quit cold turkey. No withdrawals really to it at all. I mean, nothing that was noticeable. And again, I'm not taking a large dose of Kratom though either. So I've ran into this same kind of thing when it came to like this lethargy. I microdosed shrooms for a while, Gold Cap. And yeah, like, same thing with Gold Cap, man. Anxiety went away, depression went away, but man, it just made me really lethargic. And the one thing that actually helped me the most with my depression that I wish I would have dug in a lot more to that I didn't realize, because I was like looking for a solution. And I think that's where I came up with Kratom at. Instead of really digging into like trauma therapy and anything, because this is way before I went to trauma therapy. And I was in a very toxic marriage still, and it's not even my ex-wife's fault. It's both of our fault for how toxic it was. I own a lot of the toxicity there even. And so a lot of depression really came from that. It came from how my life was. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize how much situational depression really played into everything, because I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder. And so I'm just like, okay, this is like what I get to struggle with through life. And I was very depressed. Didn't realize how much of it was really underlying trauma though. So I ended up being able to get through the 30 days. And I was like, man, I don't know. I'm going to do green Kratom next. Thankfully, I'm told that this is a little bit stronger. And everyone was like, dude, green Kratom's where it's kind of at. Like, be careful a little bit, but green Kratom, you'll notice a difference. And I did. Green Kratom, it helped with my mood, helped with my feeling good, was able to work out, be really consistent. I wasn't lethargic at all. I did notice, like, I felt a lot better. And I was like, dude, this feels like what I thought an antidepressant should feel like. And I should have known by then, like, hey, okay, this isn't necessarily a good thing. Like, I'm feeling good, but it's not doing much for me. It's what is it actually doing? Because it's altering something. I'm grateful I never got hooked to this. Like, I never got hooked. And I don't count it as a relapse. It wasn't a drug of choice. I did it with my psychiatrist. This wasn't something I went out to necessarily abuse. And people can say that I relapsed because I did this Kratom experiment. More power to you. If it makes you feel better, you can criticize me. But when it came to the green Kratom, I did notice just a definite difference. I noticed that there wasn't much of a drop with my Adderall. Was in a better mood. Was a better mood around my ex-wife. A lot more active. At this time, I was a rep for a RV manufacturer, and it was a little bit stressful. working from home, things just weren't quite going as I wanted them to go. This is during, the pandemic had just lifted where we were starting to travel. So I would travel for work. So I was trying to just keep my brain straight. And that's the other thing too, is, it was during the pandemic when I did this. So there was a lot of things still shut down, a lot of social distancing still. And I think that messed with a lot of people's heads, messed with us in a lot of different ways that we didn't realize. And again, just what you hear about Kratom, you're thinking that this is safe. Joe Rogan talks about it, how it's safe, and like all these people like have this input on it. And as a recovering addict, I think I just look at it a lot differently. And working with Refined Recovery, even seeing the amount of like inpatient stuff that they have coming through of people with Kratom, and even Whippets. That's the other wild one, is Whippets is like on the rise, they said. And I apologize on this podcast being late. My goal was to do a podcast a week. I know I'm a little bit late on that, but when I did have to travel down to California, worked with Refined Recovery in Beverly Hills. If you go to refinerecovery.com, they're amazing. This is the best rehab I've ever seen. I do have a podcast next week coming up with Casey, who is one of the owners. That was a phenomenal experience, but the wildfires were going on. We got back to Idaho, where I should have been putting up a podcast. And instead, we ended up buying a house and closing on it. And stressful times with TikTok going down. I wonder how many relapses happened because TikTok went down. Because it's amazing how social media is like freedom of speech, and stuff like that really can mess with us some. I know it messed with me because it was business for me, but it was also, realistically, TikTok is probably the best freedom of speech there is. And I think it is a great resource for addicts. And so it's hard when your voice is muted, especially like on Facebook and Meta, which I think are horrible platforms because of the fact checkers there, and everything just really have no idea what they're doing. That's the unfortunate side of it. But I will be getting back to getting these podcasts up as regularly scheduled. And if you haven't followed me on TikTok, it is the Mr. Impulsive. I do have Refined Recovery content coming out pretty much every day. Also, Sunflower Sober is a phenomenal app I started doing a lot more with. Sunflower Sober it has a 24-hour AI sponsor, which is amazing. Download it. It's sunflowersober.com. Sunflower Sober, like the sunflower. Great app. But going back to that green Kratom, man, I felt good. And not diving in with a psychologist, I think, is what kind of hurt me on this and led me down like this false path of belief with green Kratom. My workouts picked up a little bit. I got like a little bit more motivated to work out. I was walking my dog daily. I was like, man, this is great stuff. Finally hit my 30 days. And it was one of those that on this one, the 30 days for white Kratom, I was looking forward to the end. I was looking forward. I was like, I'm ready to be over this because I don't like being lethargic. And I told myself I would stick it out 30 days. With green Kratom, I actually was a little bummed that the 30 days were coming up. I'm like, crap. But I also held out hope because I'm like, hey, I got red Kratom next. And I wasn't really scared of it. I could bullshit and be like, oh, I was so worried. But people were telling me, dude, this stuff's addictive. Like, watch out for red Kratom. Be careful of it. It's worse than green. It's going to make you tired. It's going to make you sleepy. And I was just like, dude, if green Kratom's making me feel this way and everyone says that red is more potent, essentially, I'm down, dude, because I feel great. I quit, and I could notice a little bit of withdrawals. I could notice a little bit of just kind of body aches and pains, a little, just fatigue. Some brain wasn't all like good. I just was like, man, this sucks. And I would, when I quit and stopped, I would stop for 7 days. So by the end of 7 days with green Kratom, I didn't have any more withdrawal signs. But for like, not the first day, because like I've noticed this even when I quit alcohol and cocaine. I went through some DTs the first day with alcohol. Like I was bad with alcohol, but like mentally I'm like, oh, I can do this. Like you're really motivated, and like I was pushing myself hard and doing everything that people were telling me to. By the second day though is when like it hit hard. And same with the Kratom. First day wasn't much of an issue. Second day and third day I did feel it. By the fourth, fifth day, sleep went back to normal. Everything kind of went back to normal. I'm like, oh, okay, well it does have some withdrawals to it. I could see like if I was taking a massive amount of this, that I might go through some bigger withdrawals than this. But at the time, I'm not going through that massive of withdrawals. So I'm starting to become a believer in Kratom, though. I'm starting to, if you check out my YouTube channel, I have some videos where I'm talking like highly about Kratom and 30 days with green Kratom and what I experienced, because I wanted to vlog all of it. because I was really big on trying to like find something better than SSRIs. I thought I could out-science science in a sense. I've learned don't do that. Don't do that. That's not good. I now went to Red Kratom, and I don't care. I mean, people will always say, oh, well, try this brand, or you had a shitty brand, or try this type, or try, dude, to me, it's the same as when it comes to weed. I mean, there's sativa and there's indica, and it doesn't matter if it's like OG Kush or Purple Haze, whatever the name is, whatever. They're all very similar in senses. It's one of them is a little bit more of a uppity, and one of them is a little bit more of a downer. I don't think it matters though. I really don't, unless you're like this connoisseur who loves to go get fucked up. I mean, really, that's what it comes down to for me. And I've dealt with, I think, enough people that have went through kratom withdrawals, trying to understand kratom withdrawals, that I'm like, my view of it's very different in that sense that, again, I respect it as pain management, and the reason I do is because of how the red kratom acted with me. But I also respect it as a addictive substance. So I started taking red kratom, and I felt great. That to me was the cure-all. And that's when you know that something's kind of bad. Especially as an addict, you almost should pick up that if you're doing something and it's making you feel this way, it's bad. We're always looking to numb stuff. We're always looking to feel better. We're always looking to feel great. Like kava's a good one. People hit me up now with kava. And my opinion with kava is you're drinking it because you want to alter your brain and escape. You might as well go relapse. Yes, my view of NA beers is different. I do like an NA beer with a burger and fries on a patio during the summertime. I like that. I drink one. I don't drink it for anything, but I do like the taste of it, actually. I like the Heineken taste. I'm not an IPA person. Like, I'm not a big flavor person that way, and it's a lot of empty calories, so I'm not really big into drinking much of it because I want to worry about my health. I'm big into working out. I'm on testosterone replacement therapy. I like where my body is going. Even though I haven't worked out for two weeks now, essentially, I'm like, dude, if I don't keep working out, I'm not going to be... I can't tell people I'm working out anymore. So I do have that thought process, and that's why I do say whippets are addictive. And if you've ever seen people that have like just piles of those cartridges, they look like the little CO2 cartridges just all over the floor. I mean, when I moved up to Idaho, I think that's when I realized that those were addictive too. I was hooking up with this girl, man, and she loved whippets, and she would bring her backpack over, and we'd be having sex, and she'd be doing whippets while I was banging her. And I'm like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And like her backpack would like shake around, and you just hear the chinging of all the whippets in it. I'm like, dude, you got a problem, but whatever. I didn't really care. She was coolish, I guess. I don't know. She just liked to have sex, so I like to have sex. So I was like, cool, this works out. When it comes to the red kratom, it was one of those things that it made me feel good. And I started taking it, was the cure-all. I think I even still have a video up where I was like, red kratom is like the cure-all. I was a huge supporter of red kratom. I'm like, Joe Rogan has it right. Everybody has it right. Yeah. And for 30 days, it did. I didn't have any, I'm on Adderall. And again, some people will hear this stuff and be like, oh my God, he's not sober at all. Dude, when I was with ADHD, if I don't take my Adderall, I take alcohol and cocaine to self-medicate. That's what I end up using when it comes to Adderall. So that's how life really is. So you got to watch that out some. When it comes to the Adderall drop, though, the Adderall drop is there, and it's real, and it is a dopamine being stopped in your brain. So the red kratom helped me push right through that, and I'm not taking a huge dose of red kratom, but it did give me a lot more energy. Everyone told me it was going to make me lethargic, and it was going to make me tired, and I was going to sleep a lot, because it supposedly mirrors opiates, it mirrors heroin. And heroin and opiates, they do create a little bit of dopamine, which is that energy, big mood energy, but they are very suppressant to your system. So once you lose control very quickly of these, it does get to the point where it's more of a suppressant and it's not more of this upper. That for me with the red kratom though, man, I just felt great. It gave me energy. I had no desire to sit and just sleep. I was active. I was working out more. And I was laughing all the time. I was smiling all the time. I'm like, man, this has cured it all. And I was telling all my friends about it. I was bragging to friends about it. I'm like, dude, I have found the cure-all, dude. I don't know why you guys aren't on this. And to me, it was like this amazing thing that was out there that shoot, I should have done this sooner. I was already doing social media and stuff at this time, and like, I was talking about addiction and all this stuff, and here I am taking this addictive substance, but it did help with depression. I will say this, it did help with my depression, and I don't know if it chemically, neurotransmitter wise, brain chemistry wise, whatever. I don't know if it helped me per se there, or if it essentially just numbed my living situation, because I didn't like my living situation. I mean, I had a really expensive rent where I was living in Orange County. I was, again, in a marriage that was very toxic, very stressed out about money, lots of pressure on my shoulders, probably pressure that I put there too, even. And it was a big struggle there. And so Red Kratom was like that escape from it all. And I'd never had an Adderall crash. I just felt great, man. 30 days, I thought this was the cure-all. And everybody who told me it was going to make me sleepy, I never was addicted to benzos. I was never addicted to opiates. I was never a pill popper. And I think I was never a pill popper just because my dad was a doctor. I was really raised like you respect medication. You take medication only as directed. I was like scarred at a really young age of like, if you take insulin and you don't need insulin, you can go into, shock, and you can turn yourself into a vegetable. Like I was really scared of needles. I was scared of medicine in a sense, and I really respected it. So I think I really respected opiates that way. And a lot of it was just that override of my brain of like, hey, this is how you take it, only take it this way. So I just felt amazing, and it was the cure-all. And then it came to my 30 days coming up. And this one I was actually really way more sad about the 30 days coming up. I was really bummed. Because I was like, dang it, I'm going to stop this. And I was going to stop it. And then my initial plan was, okay, I'm going to stop this. I'll stop it for the 7 days. If I don't go through bad withdrawals, I'm going to go back and take it again. So I kind of had this whole thing of like, I was like, I'm good to be on Kratom for the rest of my life. I'm talking to my psychiatrist about it. And he's like, wow, this is great. Cool. I've been able to quit all of them so far, so they can't be that addictive. I, went through a little bit of withdrawals, but you're going to go through withdrawals on SSRIs and brain zaps and all that stuff regardless. So how can this be any different, That was my thought process. So the reality comes, and it sucked. First day I got off them, I felt good. I could feel my body ache some. I woke up that morning, I'm like, oh, fuck. And man, the workout was a lot harder, walking my dog, and I'm just like, I kind of in a brain fog. Wasn't productive whatsoever, really. I was on the phone all of a sudden a little bit, just talking to people like, man, I don't know what's wrong with me. Should have known. It got worse. The second day is when it really kicked in. The second day, I didn't sleep that night. Woke up, I was like in a pool of sweat, hot and cold flashes, shaking. I was constipated. I hadn't shit for like 2 days all of a sudden now. And if you don't go, like I go very regularly. So if I don't go for 2 days and I eat a lot of food, like it just backs up in me and I feel horrid. Like I feel so bloated and just disgusting. I'm hot and cold flashes. I'd be inside in the AC, dripping sweat, like, how is it so hot in here? And then I'd go outside where it was like 100 degrees because it's summertime in Orange County. And I'm shivering with a blanket around me. It like made no sense. It sucked, man. The full-on withdrawals that I had of everything. I couldn't sleep. I would just toss and turn. I just felt fucking miserable. I would lay in bed and just like flop around like a fucking dead seal. Or dying seal. Because like I couldn't get comfortable. Nothing seemed to work. And I ended up calling up a good friend of mine. His name is Philip, and I'm like, bro, what's going on with me, man? I start sharing with him on this, and he's like, you're going through like heroin withdrawals, bro. Because like heroin withdrawals are a lot worse than this, but he's like, dude, what you're explaining though is essentially that. And I'm like, crap, dude. And I wasn't taking a whole lot. So if I'm going through shitty withdrawals, not taking a whole lot, imagine if I was taking a lot of like, I've ran into people where they're taking just spoonfuls of this stuff and shaking it up like all day long. And I'm taking like 8 capsules of like 750 milligrams. Like I'm not taking a ton. I think, I'm like, oh, this isn't good. So next thing I know, all of a sudden is I'm feeling like crap. I'm feeling like shit. And I'm going through withdrawals and I'm hurting and I'm physically hurting. And it just continually started getting worse and worse. And him telling me this, it was like, crap. I had a business trip coming on, a work trip. I was actually going up to Boise, and I'm on like day 2 of withdrawals. I'm leaving on day 3 of withdrawals. And I'm like, this isn't good. And I noticed myself even in the truck. I was driving around in my truck and I was talking to people, bartering with myself of like, maybe I just go and buy some and keep using it through the trip so I don't feel this way, so I can have a positive work trip. And I'm like, no, that's the mindset again of an addict. Like this is addictive substance. Obviously I can't do that. And so I didn't do it. But it was really weird to even catch myself sitting there like bartering with myself of like, hey man, why don't you just take a little bit and you take it on your trip and you're not gonna feel this bad and you'll feel good, and that way you can push through the work trip and be really productive. I'm glad that I didn't. And man, I woke up the next day after that and it does continually kind of compound getting worse. The worst sides of the withdrawals that I had was the constipation. My sleep was really whacked and I was waking up just dripping sweat. Appetite was gone, just really fatigued, and my whole body just hurt. Like my lower back hurt. My lower back hurt a ton. It was like I felt like I got hit in the back with like a baseball bat or something. That sucked. My whole body ached, and I was like, no, this is just not good. I started vlogging it, and I even in my vlog, it's on YouTube here. I had it where I was even in the bathroom at the airport. Like, man, this sucks. And it did. I went through pretty good withdrawals for about 6-7 days. And after that, it did fade away. And I realized myself, like, no, this is an addictive substance. This is something that I'm not going to mess with. This has to be respected. And yes, the flip side, though, is that it took away all my pain. Like, it made my body feel good. And that is kind of what sucks us in as an addict, and wanting that feeling and wanting that escape. And that's where so much of it, even when it comes to why we're self-medicating, I wish I would have realized how much of it was like, how much of this was situational. Like when I got sober and I'm going through all this and I'm still struggling with depression, maybe it's not a psychiatrist and psychologist's place to be, and I know it's not, especially with psychiatrists, but maybe a psychologist it is, of like, hey, let's maybe dive into your relationship and see if that's causing you some depression, or let's see if, your cost of live, like where's this depression coming from? Because I wanted to move so bad. I wanted to change my life so bad, because it was just like, this sucks. And it's hard. And I couldn't understand why I was just so depressed, because I knew I deserved to be happy, and I was struggling. This was during my time when I quit. This would be about 2020 is actually when I did these experiments. And it was like, man, I've been sober at this point for 3 years off of alcohol and cocaine. I tried to take my life in 2018, and I'm not mentally getting better once I got sober. And I was like, is it pause? Is it this? Is it that? And part of it, I think, it really was pause. Because there's so much of your brain kind of defaults. Like, normal things aren't making you happy. Seeing your dog isn't making you happy. Seeing friends isn't making you happy. So pause is very real, and it can last for a while. Like, your brain has to level out. But eventually, once your brain kind of levels out and you're noticing certain things are making you happy, I think you really have to kind of dig in and be like, what else in my life is not making me happy? And it's amazing. I mean, we as addicts will stay in these bad relationships, because we did with drugs and alcohol. We stay in these toxic relationships with drugs and alcohol, thinking each time it's going to be different. I mean, this time it'll be different. Maybe if I bring this up, it could be different. We can instantly change. And if I would have left that relationship so much sooner, how much further ahead would I have been? Or if I would have gotten into trauma therapy, really, how much further ahead would I have been? Because I didn't realize that so much of what I was looking for was a solution. And I was never just addressing the problem was my biggest challenge. I always was focused on the wrong things. And it never really dawned on me of how much my dad's suicide really messed with me. My wife's suicide really messed with me. My childhood trauma, how much I had a lot of people leave me, and a lot of the self-sabotaging to create even more trauma for me, and a stronger belief system that, I wasn't worthy, I wasn't, I'd be discarded easily, all that. And it gave me more reason then to self-sabotage, thinking I had control over situations, when all I'm doing is just destroying everything. And just trying to chase that through a substance, you're looking for this easy, quick solution, which Getting to the heart of all that and really working through a lot of it wasn't an easy, quick solution. It was a process. It was a lot of understanding. It wasn't easy whatsoever. And that's, I think, what made it so difficult is I wanted it to be easy. I wanted it to be a solution. I wanted it to be a quick fix. And there's no quick fix to that. There's no quick fix to any of it. And it's a process. But we do look towards these things, and Kratom is heavily out there. I mean, Kratom, I can go down to the gas station here in Boise and buy Kratom. And that's the amazing thing. In some states, Kratom is a scheduled drug. So it's the same as heroin in 4 states out there. I want to say it's like Alabama, New Hampshire, like Wisconsin, and like some other state. I have to look up. I don't remember offhand. I know one of them's Alabama because you can buy it like in Florida, and if you got pulled over with it in Alabama, you can get like, hit with some serious charges that, is like drug running essentially of, intent to deal because it's scheduled the same as heroin is, which I think is so messed up. You're either going to make it illegal everywhere or nowhere at all, essentially, when it comes to this. And I really think that this is something that should be, I'm not a huge fan of it. But again, I do, like I said, know the positive side where a lot of people use it for medicinal purposes. And it does have more medicinal purposes than what Whippets has or tinaneptine has. A lot of the gas station caffeine pills. Like, it's amazing what we'll put in our body to try and avoid sleep. And I don't know why that is. Like, are we just trying to get more in the day or whatever? Or weight loss stuff, man. It's amazing the stuff that we will pump into our body, and we just not doing the proper research on this. And you think that the FDA is there to save you or to help you. And if it's FDA approved or if the FDA hasn't said anything, like, it has to be safe. And that's not the case. It's some of this stuff they just don't even care about. It is very money driven. So if you are curious about like stuff, I mean, you really almost have to look to Europe and be like, okay, is this something that's legal in Europe? Because if it's legal in Europe, that they have such stricter standards than we do. Every country essentially over there has way stricter standards on food and everything than what the United States has. We are a greedier country, unfortunately, and everything's ran by money and lobbying. And Kratom has really good lobbyists. Like, they dump some money into lobbying. It's a legal cartel in a sense. So again, they're going to have good funding for it. Everything that you talk about with Kratom it gets limited monetization, all this type of stuff. Like, it's amazing what happens when you speak on this one substance out there. When it comes to like Whippets and stuff, like, yeah, it gives you that temporary like minute long solution, the wah, 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 like dude just doing Whippets and poppers and stuff. But it also doesn't have medicinal purposes. It kind of is almost in that harm reduction category. But even then, when it comes to like weed, which essentially to me, weed is a harm reduction. Adderall even to me is a harm reduction. Because, yeah, it is a stimulant. It does have an addictive side to it. And these are, again, my views. It has an addictive side to it, but used the right way and not abusing it, it is a very powerful tool. So when it comes to substances and stuff out there, Whippets to me isn't on that list at all. Even the caffeine pills, like a lot of those pills out there that have who knows what in it are not harm reduction. That's not good. Same even when it comes to kava. Kava, if you're drinking something to try and get this weird feeling, you're probably drinking it for the wrong reasons. There's no harm reduction in that at all. I think it's more of almost like a relapse tool. And, Kratom, I do kind of put that under that harm reduction area because, again, it's not a used MAT program. If you don't know what MAT programs are, that's what people use to get off of opiates, to get off of heroin, fentanyl. Because this stuff bonds to your brain, they're not deadly withdrawals, but you go through a lot. It really wrecks your system, but it isn't classified the same as like alcohol and benzodiazepines where you have to taper. You got to get medication if you're going into DT so that you don't die. So when it comes to Kratom itself, it's not really a MAT program like Suboxone. It's methadone is on that. I almost don't think methadone's necessarily a great MAT program. I think really Suboxone's almost the way to go. But even with the MAT programs, at a certain point, when you get off of them, you're going through these withdrawals. Because it does hyper-excite a lot of your pain receptors and a lot of your neurotransmitters. That's the thing that I don't think people realize, like even when it comes to Kratom, if it's messing with your dopamine and serotonin, some of these other ones, I mean, that's altering your mind state to me when it's affecting your different pain receptors, because all your pain is felt through your brain. You don't actually feel it. Your neurotransmitters in your brain that do pain let you know that, hey, my finger hurts really bad right now, and now you feel pain there. And it sends it to your whole body. The withdrawals that you're going to go through are very pain almost oriented. You don't go back to normal when you quit. And I think that was always the assumption. Like if you quit something, even when you quit Kratom, like you're going to go back to normal right away, and you don't. You go hyper excited. So anything that was normal before you use this, it doesn't go back there. It jumps 10 levels higher than that. And the only thing that will really work a lot is like taking time to get back down there. If you want something that can help, magnesium can help actually. Magnesium is one of the few things out there that does help with like the NMDA receptors, which are pain receptors. That helps numb those and not let them get as hyper excited. So magnesium can make a difference. Again, it doesn't take away all the pain. You're still going to be in pain, but it does lessen it some. If you go to ericbzink.com, that's my website. I even have Banff Wellness and Recovery. I put together a bunch of supplements there to help people through withdrawals, because withdrawals do suck. You go through the mental side of it, which is dopamine, serotonin, all this stuff trying to level back out, learning how to deal with life again. The worst part is when you get sober, all that trauma, all that pain, grief, whatever it is all still there. And it just kind of smacks you in the face and you have to deal with this again. And you're like, crap. So it does make it difficult, but if you do take just a lot of the natural stuff out there can help. Coffee can help even with the pause a little bit, because it helps on how your body produces dopamine. So it does make a big difference when it comes to that. And it's just finding out, again, what essentially works for you when you're getting sober. But when I meet with a lot of people that are trying to get sober from Kratom, they don't realize, I don't think they ever realize how addictive it was and how much of a struggle it was. What I have found in my unprofessional experience of dealing with people and dealing with helping addicts, I shouldn't say dealing with addicts, I should say helping addicts, because I really enjoy helping addicts a lot. And I will say, nobody that I've dealt with Kratom, everybody goes, I didn't realize it was this bad, or I didn't know it was addictive. That's the thing. I've also ran into a lot of people that didn't know it was addictive. It's kind of like they have these like Kratom bars and stuff that are set up in New York and stuff, kind of like a hookah lounge. Like if you go smoke a hookah, I had an ex-wife who was Jordanian, and I've smoked hookah before. I mean, it's tobacco, it's put in this really beautiful like pipe, and you have these like smoker things that you hold in your hand with a tube, and they put these, it's a whole production that goes into a hookah. You're eating, some appetizers with it, just sitting there enjoying. Very sociable, and they've created Kratom lounges like this. Well, you're getting high, essentially, at a Kratom lounge. I mean, yes, nicotine can make you high, but it's not going to be the same strength and type of high as what Kratom's going to get you. And these people just don't realize that it was addictive, because they're like, dude, I went to these Kratom bars, and I didn't, why would they have this if it's that addictive? So I think a lot of people, when they do decide to quit, aren't prepared for what the withdrawals are. And you have to treat, I think, the withdrawals a lot just like you do opiates, because, people be like, oh, it's a synthetic opiate or anything. It's not a synthetic opiate. And opiates actually themselves typically aren't, in a lot of cases, fully synthetic. I mean, a lot of them come from the poppy. So there is some, nature with it. So it's not a pure synthetic like fentanyl. Fentanyl is a pure synthetic. So it does affect your body a lot differently in that aspect of how it works. And so it really comes down to being aware of what you're going to go through withdrawal-wise, being aware of what you're going to go through, feeling-wise, and being prepared for it. And that's one thing I think that catches everybody off guard, is thinking that this is safe, not prepared. And there's not really a whole lot to do to prepare for it, but I mean, at least make sure that you're drinking water. 45 days is roughly the longest I think I've really seen anyone go through, like really any kind of physical withdrawals. And yeah, you can go through pause, the post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which is your whole mental side of it, it does numb things. So I think if you have trauma out there, if you have abuse out there, a lot of unhealed things mentally that you're struggling with, those do come back, and they come back full force. So it does make it a little bit difficult to fight and maintain that sobriety. And that's why I think you're also seeing a lot of people even going into rehabs and stuff now, because finding a right rehab out there, a good rehab, and there are bad rehabs out there, but a good rehab like Refined Recovery, they are one therapist per 6 clients. And it is nonstop groups, it's nonstop one-on-ones. Like, you are really diving in and working on the mental side of what your addiction truly is. Instead of treating addiction as a problem, it's not a 420 friendly rehab. I don't agree in 420 friendly rehabs. I think that is the definition of what a rehab is not. Is a 420 friendly. If whenever I hear that, I'm like, instantly go to like, okay, it's body brokering, it's bad. You can't just come and go as you please. And yeah, so finding the right rehab that really helps you dive into why you're using is big. And why did you start using Kratom the first time? And I think the thing with Kratom is why it's kind of like that secret knife in your back is, per se, when you were doing it, you weren't necessarily seeking this massive high. Like, when we do cocaine, we know we're doing a drug. When you're smoking crack, meth, I mean, these are drugs. I mean, these are hardcore bad drugs, and we know that. And with Kratom, you don't necessarily know that, and it doesn't come off as this bad drug. If you sat people next to each other, and you would say, hey, what's worse? Somebody shooting up with track marks all over their arm, shooting up heroin, and then somebody sitting there drinking this cup of like green looking whatever, it looks like a health drink of Kratom, and you said, what one's worse? You'd be like, dude, the dude shooting up heroin. These aren't even the same category, but essentially they are. And that's where I think a lot of education needs to be played into it, of like, hey, yep, it does help with pain. Opium and opium bars and stuff like that are out there in different countries because it is a pain management, but it's also very addictive. So I think people getting into this aren't just aware of how much addiction you're going to run into it. And, a lot of us do live with trauma. A lot of us do live with suppressed things out there. And it's almost like finding that right substance unlocks the escape from it. And then it becomes even more of the stronger mental addiction. That you're like, okay, this is helping this numb this pain. It's not in my everyday life all of a sudden. I don't have to mentally deal with it. And life becomes a little bit easier. And that's, I think, what draws us into these addictions sometimes that we just don't realize. And I love sharing about addiction. I love helping addicts because it's life or death. And some of the success stories I hear is just so amazing. Like, that's the thing I do love. I love hearing success stories with addicts when they get sober, because addicts are really amazing people. They're very resilient. Like, when you've been to hell and back, you look at life, I think, a little bit differently. You look at it with bigger opportunity. I mean, I know I do. Like, I lived 13 years of my life just really fucked up. But like the last 2 years of my life especially have just been so amazing that I'm like, fuck, man. I've been sober for 7 years, going on 8. And like the last 2.5 years right now have just been amazing. And I don't beat myself up, because I don't think I would have ever enjoyed these last 2.5 years even as much as I do now if I hadn't been through what I've been through. I think that's where you really learn to be grateful and find gratitude in things, because it makes a difference. And I can go out and do stuff now and have fun where it's not like I'm just isolating myself using drugs. That's one of the worst things in the world, is like, I go drink and do drugs. That's what I do. And people are like, oh, that sounds like the life, man. And that was the boringest, most numb, like dumb life ever, because I don't remember much of anything. I lost a lot of money, put myself in a lot of risk. And to now have a life that I like remember everything, I've been able to really enjoy things and been able to watch my life grow with my wife now, to meet a wonderful woman like my wife, and have stepkids in my life that I don't have to worry about them. Like, I don't have to worry about like I'm going to hurt people. I think that is huge, and I think that is key, and it's something that's very beautiful to me of what sobriety brings you in life. So when it comes to Kratom, I mean, my unprofessional advice on it is definitely proceed with caution. And if you can avoid it, avoid it. Unless you really truly need it for pain management, I would avoid it. Just because of how addictive it is, because it does numb you. It does change your brain. It does take away the pain. And that part, whenever anything does that, it's scary. It's amazing how it just kind of can wrap you in. And just because it's sold at a gas station or it's sold at a store doesn't mean that it's not dangerous. I mean, alcohol is the prime example of it. Alcohol is one of the deadliest withdrawals. And depending on where you read, it's anywhere from like a 30 to 15% mortality rate if you go to DTs while you're withdrawing, which are the shakes, the tremors, it's going into the hallucinations, the vomiting, seizures you can go into, cardiac arrest, blood pressure, all that's thrown off. But all you have to be is 21. You can go to any store and get it. And you see all these commercials that the only way you're going to unwind from life right now, man, is cracking open a beer, and you buy into that this is safe because it's sold at a store. In reality, it's not safe at all. It's one of the most dangerous substances there is. But because of how it is presented to us, it's safe. So just because something is sold in a store, you have to truly remember that it's not safe. Just because it's there doesn't mean that it's safe and easy for consumption. Remember, anything that does change and alter you can be addictive, and that's what makes it all scary. So I do thank everybody who joins these podcasts. Again, I will be now on hopefully a regularly scheduled program. I know I already have next week's podcast filmed, and I'll be releasing that next week. I'm trying to get them all up on Fridays. If you haven't hit the like and follow button on this, hit the like and follow button. Hit it on the Spotify, iTunes, all that. I do post these up onto YouTube. So I do post my podcast everywhere. And I've been watching my podcast just slowly kind of grow, which is kind of cool. I don't push this a whole lot. I just really have a lot of fun with it. I do have some guests lined up. If you guys have seen John, who's been in some of my TikToks here recently with Refined Recovery, I'm going to have him on my podcast. I'm trying to get the owner and founder of Sunflower Sober on my podcast. He was a weed addict. Some of the guys that I work with Sunflower Sober now, one of them was a sex addict and big on like sex addiction. I think these are just fascinating subjects to share on, and I want to get these up so that you can hear what people's experiences are with them. You can hear what people have went through with them. I think it's really important to understand and know what these addictions are like. And the more that we do, the more that it helps people push through, helps more people understand. So again, I thank everybody who shows up for these. Hopefully there will be no more home buying anytime soon and no more fires anytime soon that I run into. So I look forward to sharing more and posting more and just helping people out there. If you are struggling, go to ericbzink.com, which is my website. Mr. Impulsive on TikTok, Instagram, Eric Zink on Facebook, on YouTube. Come check it out. I have been working on my Snapchat, growing that too, which is kind of fun. So check me even out on Snapchat. Love you guys. Again, Eric B. Zink for all of your needs, and this is Unhinged Addiction, and I look forward to talking to you next week and just working it through, man, one day at a time.